Welcome to the Vin Armani Show. We are streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Vin Armani. Also on Twitter and Periscope at Vin Armani is my handle there. We are proud members of the Activist Post Podcast Network. You can check out our archived audio feed at activistpost.com. Well, it's Monday morning, 10 a.m., and we are coming to you live from fabulous and starting to get cold, and you can see I may even be coming down with a cold myself. Fabulous Las Vegas. We got a great show for you today. Our guest in the second hour is meme kingpin Mance Rayder. He's going to be talking to us about his new book. This is a great project. It's called Freedom Through Memedom, and it's a 31-day guide to freedom, using memes as the vehicle for doing that. Very, very cool. Stick around for that. That's in the second hour. In the first hour, we've got to, of course, talk about this new Bitcoin futures market, which basically opened actually yesterday afternoon to try to, for the beginning of the business day in Asia and then move through the world. There's been some movement there. Futures is a difficult one. It's not something that most people understand. I thought that it would be good to go through and to do a sort of layman's guide to futures, and then to talk about why I have some misgivings about Bitcoin futures and what this could potentially mean, and I'm going to talk to you about that. To help me get through all of this today is my good friend, co-host, and producer, Mr. Christian Reyes. Christian!
Good morning, Vin.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Futures. This has been it's been crazy. Like, I've been laying awake at night for about the past week, and I can't stop thinking about cash settled futures and how fucking weird this whole thing is.
Yeah, I really want to understand what's going on with that, because I know it changes a lot of things. And
potentially, the worrisome part about this is the one word that I don't see being used in talking about Bitcoin futures, although futures are of this class of assets, the word that is not being used is derivatives. And you may remember that word because that was the source of the 2008 financial crisis, was derivatives.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into it. This is, I do not think this is a good thing. Mm-hmm. There is no functional use for Bitcoin futures. We'll get into why all of that is. But yeah, even the memes that I'm seeing coming from like the Bitcoin side, that they're celebrating that this futures market exists, and it's like, you're celebrating a derivatives market when you have a cash market that's easily accessible to anyone. Like, that's the whole wonderful thing about cryptocurrencies, is that anyone can participate in the market and play in the market, in the cash market. It's like, anyway,
yeah,
we're gonna get into that, dude.
Cool.
We're gonna get into that. I want to start out with putting on display, because I've got these over here, some new shirts.
Yeah, we got some new stuff.
You're wearing this one. Govern yourself. Bam. I love this one. It's kind of got like almost like a Fight Club, Fast and Furious kind of feel to it. I love it, dude. I love this one. Let's see what else we got over here. This is appropriate for today.
Yeah, dude.
Litecoin is like, it was at 180 the last time I checked. Someone had asked me, how high do you think this thing is going to go? And it was like at 120, and I was like, dude, 150's got to be the top of it. No, 180.
It did it in a couple days too.
You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. It's all these people who are trying to do profit taking on their Bitcoin gains, and trying to get out of Bitcoin before this futures market open, but they can't get into cash. So they're like, okay, well, I'll get into Litecoin. I'll exit into Litecoin. So basically what you're seeing is Litecoin's going to go up to reflect whatever it's going to match the profit, which is, again, like, these markets self-regulate.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah, I love that design.
It's Ethereum with the binary ones and zeros. And the very cool internal.
We had some orders come in, and those are actually going out today to
Ooh, this is so cool on the
Yeah,
inside.
it's got a new tag.
Silkscreen tag. Govern yourself, extra large, with the signature, Christian Ray signature. So these are cool. GovernYourself.com. People can go and get those. They can get them for cryptocurrency there. Very cool stuff, dude. Very, very
More
cool.
coming too. We got
Yes,
some- yeah.
great. It's great. I mean, the more designs, the better. This is,
Yeah.
because I do feel that now this crypto savage thing is starting to pick up. People are feeling that they're, more and more part of this new and emerging culture. All of these things are very important.
way,
In addition, of course, people can go selfownership.me. Go and get the book, Self Ownership, The Foundation of Property and Morality, my book. 5th printing now on this thing. And, of course, baby vodka. So,
Hands down, the best vodka. There.
hands down the best. And that's like not a joke.
Not a joke.
People are skeptical,
Yeah.
and then they taste it and they're like, oh, okay, never
got
mind.
it.
I thought you were just blowing smoke up my ass, but you're really not.
They got to experience it themselves.
It's exactly. It's just it's funny because Jeff Paul at Counter Markets was talking to me about, oh, dude, you don't promote your stuff enough on the show. You need to do it more. But it's like we're always so jam-packed full of information, and I always just want to get to the stories because it's so important. You know what I mean?
Right.
Particularly today. I need to get this out so that I can stop sitting around and thinking about these goddamn Bitcoin futures and what it could possibly mean. So we're going to talk about what futures are, and I've got some worries and some predictions, and you can tell me if it makes sense, right? One thing I want to say on this, because I think it's very important, we're diving into a realm that I'm sure 99% of... I've never done futures trading, but I got into understanding derivatives when the 2008 thing happened. But even I had to go back and refresh myself to understand, because there's some, especially this cash settlement thing is very, very strange. So if there's a point in this, it's going to be very helpful, I think, for the audience as well. If there's a point in this where you're like, what the fuck? Like, just be sure to stop me.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll definitely have a couple of those moments.
Okay, if you have those, don't let them pass, because like I say, this has been the past 2 weeks for me, has just been diving into this.
Awesome.
If I'm leaving something out that doesn't make sense, just stop me, and then we'll sit on it for a while, and we'll move through it, because it's weird, and I also feel like about 80% of the people reporting on this shit don't understand it either. Very, very difficult. And the reason why is because there's a lot of smoke being blown about that this is some...
Oh, I'm sure.
It's betting.
Yeah.
This is really betting. And we're going to get into exactly how this works. So, before we do that, I do not want to leave this out. February, I'm going to be in New Hampshire. I'm going to be speaking at Liberty Forum. I'm giving one of the keynotes. It's early February. Go ahead and throw up this Liberty Forum thing. New Hampshire Liberty Forum is February 8th through 10th in Manchester, New Hampshire. So it's coming up in 2 months or so. I'm giving one of the keynotes. Jack Spirko is giving one of the keynotes.
Nice.
I would love to see you guys there. Come and hang out. You can use the coupon code VIN10 for a 10% discount there. At New Hampshire Liberty Forum in Manchester. And I think a week or 2 weeks after that is in Acapulco. Wow. I'll be there as well. And I'm trying to... They told me that my affiliate code on that still works, so people can get a discount. I don't know whether or not I'm speaking. Whether or not I'm speaking, I'm going to be down there. I had a blast. It's great running into people. So it would be awesome to see people go to both. You get the snow in February in New Hampshire, and then you get the sun in Acapulco, and you get to basically meet everybody in the movement.
Awesome.
So that's
and for the
awesome.
podcasters, it's nhlibertyforum.com?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. nhlibertyforum.com. Thank you for that, dude.
Yeah.
Coupon code VIN10. You're going to get a 10% discount. And they what they have that's kind of cool is they've got, you could just buy the ticket, but then you can also buy the all-inclusive that includes like meals and everything. So that's really cool. Did not want to leave that out. So with that, let's go ahead and just get into this, jump right into the story number one. So today, Bitcoin futures on the CBOE exchange in Chicago opened up want to get into what this potentially means, who the players are, what the hell are futures anyway, and I honestly do believe that this is a little, it's fishy, and it feels more like a setup to me than anything else. Let's go first to talk about where did futures start. So, the origin. The Dutch pioneered several financial instruments and helped lay the foundations of the modern financial system. In Europe, formal futures markets appeared in the Dutch Republic during the 17th century. Among the most notable of these early futures contracts were the tulip futures that developed during the height of Dutch tulip mania in 1636. So, we've talked about that in previous shows. People bring that up when talking about Bitcoin. Tulip mania, it was a huge bubble and then a crash. Was it as bad? I've seen some people say, oh, it wasn't really as bad as it's been played up. But anyway, it's an apocryphal story, and it's supposed to be a story about bubbles. It's not a good sign that the idea of futures first really blew up in tulip mania. The most interesting one, the Dojima Rice Exchange, this is how most futures are really used. First established in 1697 in Osaka, is considered by some to be the first futures exchange market to meet the needs of samurai who, being paid in rice and after a series of bad harvests, needed a stable conversion to coin. So Christian, this I think is good. Let's talk about this futures exchange in terms of these commodities. Rice, corn, soybeans. This is typically the typical futures market, and this is what it's used for. So, okay. What is it? What are futures? Futures are contracts between two parties that say, okay, we are going to make an exchange, a buyer and a seller. We're going to make an exchange at a particular price, usually the price on the day that the contract is made, at that particular price, but at a future date.
Oh, I see.
Okay? So it could be like, if I'm a purchaser of some good, right? Let's say rice. Let's say I'm a company that distributes rice. And I know that in February that I'm going to need to buy some rice to add to my inventory so that I can ship it out, right? But I think that the price of rice may go up between now and February. I make a deal with the rice producer and I make a contract with them. And I say, hey, this is basically a forward. This is called a forward, but a forward and futures are almost exactly the same. It's just that futures can be resold. You can resell your position. So I basically say, hey, let's say that rice is $100 per whatever it is, bushel, or however they sell rice.
Yeah.
$100 a bushel for rice right now. I say, hey, I'm going to pay you in February, on February 15th, you're going to deliver me a bushel of rice. I'm going to pay you $100, right?
Okay.
Now, if we get to February 15th and the cost of rice has gone up to $150, I win big time, right? Because I basically saved myself $50, from what I would be paying on the open market.
Okay.
Right? But if it goes down, if the price goes down to, let's say the price goes down to $50, but I'm paying $100, so the rice producer won in that scenario.
Gotcha.
So what you say is that the seller is betting that the price goes down. The buyer is betting that the price goes up. That's why they're agreeing to make this contract instead of just buying and selling on the cash market at the time. Okay? So the seller's position is called the short position. So you're going to hear short and long in this. The seller's position is called the short position. So again, the short position is betting that the price goes down over time. The buyer's position is the long position. He's betting that the buyer is betting that the price is going to go up. That's why I'm going to lock in my price now. It's basically about locking in a price now so that I can have no price volatility over time. Okay. So if it's just between those two parties and it's going to be payment at that time and delivery at that time, that's called a forward contract. Right? When you get into futures is, now that you have the contract, I can, from either position, I can sell my position to someone else.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So if I'm a producer, I can sell, and I see the price fluctuation going in a way that I don't want it to go. I can sell my side to another producer.
Gotcha.
And if I'm a purchaser, I can sell my side of the contract to someone else. Right? It's like somebody, like taking over payments on a car, basically. Right? So you get back your equity, or a house, right? Like you get back your equity, and then someone continues on taking over the mortgage payments.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
That's what it is. It's a contract. Okay? So when you think about the physical delivery, that's what we just described, and that's what was happening in the rice market. So basically, what was going on with the rice futures situation in Japan was the samurai would get paid in rice, but the price would fluctuate. So they would agree that, okay, you go and you fight this war and you're going to be paid in rice from like this amount of whatever comes from these fields, you'll get the rice. And so they would make these deals with the merchants that it's like, well, I don't know what the harvest is going to be like, but will you agree to pay me some amount? So then that way, when they were done, they didn't take the rice, they took the cash. Right?
Makes sense.
So this is a system of like you're trying to hedge against something going bad.
It's definitely a betting. It's
betting.
It's a betting system. Yeah.
I'm betting as the person who's the seller. I'm betting it's going to be the price is going to fall. And the buyer is betting the price is going to go up, right? Because what does the buyer want to do? The buyer is wants to pay the low price, and then they're going to turn around and sell it on the cash market. That's how they make their profit. That's important. That's an important thing to remember because we're going to talk about something called cash settlement. So let's just go and jump into, so we could talk specifically about, but you got an idea of what the basic idea behind what a futures contract, what futures are and what a futures contract is. Okay. So let's go and we'll just go into a very basic breakdown from MarketWatch of what Bitcoin futures is. This is MarketWatch. So Bitcoin futures from MarketWatch, Bitcoin futures, here's what you need to know. Let's start with the basics. CBOE Global Markets will launch its Bitcoin futures contract trading with the symbol XBT at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, while rival CME Group Incorporated plans to launch its contract on December 18th. A futures contract allows a trader to place a leveraged bet on whether the price of the underlying asset will move higher or lower before the contract expires. A trader who thinks the price will rise can go long, while a trader who expects the price to fall can go short. In futures, there is a short bet for every long and vice versa. Bitcoin futures will be cash settled, meaning no Bitcoins will actually change hands when a contract expires. Winning traders effectively collect their gains from the losers. As with most contracts, traders will likely have closed out positions collecting gains or ceding losses before expiration. So shorting, the ability to place a short bet without having to first borrow the underlying security is one of the appeals of the futures market. Investors hope it will make for more efficient price discovery, helping to tame the extreme volatility that regularly whipsaws the Bitcoin market. It is also likely to be welcomed by Bitcoin bears who have been frustrated by the technical difficulty inherent in shorting Bitcoin. That easier shorting ability could put near-term pressure on Bitcoin prices, but even cryptocurrency bulls should welcome the development, said Thomas Lee, managing partner of Fundstrat Global Advisors, in a Friday note. Shorting creates true price discovery, and the ability to short means hedge funds can take Bitcoin more seriously. This should actually improve the long-term prospects of Bitcoin as it broadens sponsorship, he said. Hedging. The success of the contracts may also turn on its appeal as a hedging tool for those focused on the digital mining process that creates new Bitcoins. Indeed, the big players in the market, dubbed Bitcoin whales in this Bloomberg article, may be particularly interested in the ability to hedge against the possibility of a sharp price fall via the futures market. And some professional futures traders, quote, are licking their chops for the opportunity to unleash their quantitative trading systems on the Bitcoin market, said Matt Osborne, Chief Investment Officer at Altegris, a La Jolla, California-based provider of alternative investment products with around $3 billion in assets under management. But that's going to take time, he said. They will need price history data on which to build systems. On the downside, it's hard to ignore the reservations expressed by big banks and brokers who have criticized the futures launch as premature. In an open letter to the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, the Futures Industry Association said the exchanges didn't get enough feedback on margin levels and other considerations. A number of big Wall Street banks were telling customers they won't offer them access to Bitcoin futures when CBOE contract launches Sunday, the Wall Street Journal reported. Citing people familiar with the matter, Goldman Sachs Group, the largest U.S. futures broker, will offer access but only to certain customers, the report said. Meanwhile, some futures brokers are adding to the already hefty margin requirements imposed by the exchanges in response to Bitcoin's underlying volatility. So margin is the amount of money a trader must initially pony up as collateral when taking a futures position. For many heavily traded contracts, the margin amount is under 10% of the total value of the underlying contract, but the CME will require Bitcoin traders to put up a 35% margin, while the CBOE is set to require 44% of the daily settlement price. In the case of CBOE, that means if the contract was trading at $15,000, a trader wishing to go long or short would have to put up $6,600. He would be subject to additional margin calls if the margin account falls below a certain level. The high margins reflect concerns about the underlying volatility of Bitcoin, which this week alone saw large price swings, at one point rallying around 40% in less than 2 days as it soared to new highs. Okay, Christian. For all the people who are not in the markets, that was gobbledygook. So we're going to go through step by step all of the pieces of that.
Cool.
Okay. First thing we need to talk about is the type of futures contract that we just described is called a physically settled contract, meaning I, as the buyer, say, okay, on the date of this contract, I'm going to give you the amount that is the market price today. I'm going to give you that, and you are going to deliver me rice, corn, whatever the hell it is that's in this contract. I'm going to take this rice and corn, and fundamentally, if I'm a speculator, if that's what I'm doing, and I'm not the person who's actually using it, which is in most of the case in the market, I'm going to take it onto the cash market, I'm going to sell it on the cash market, and then I'm going to reap the profits, right? So the profits or the loss, right? I'm either going to take a loss or I'm going to reap the profits. So let's look at it this way. Let's say it's $100 for that sack of rice, okay? And let's say that the price goes up to $120. So what happens? I give $100 to this guy, to the person for the rice. He gives me the rice. I take it to the market. I sell it for $120, so my net amount that I made was I made $20. So what I'm left with is I'm left with $20. Now he fundamentally takes a loss of $20 because he did not have the opportunity to sell it on the market.
Right.
So as these markets have developed, what they figured out was, well, there's too much extra shit happening here. Why don't we just do cash settlement? So instead of you having the extra expense of shipping me the rice and me having the extra expense of taking it to the market and there's all this loss, why don't, if the price goes up, the seller why don't you just give me $20, right? You go and sell it for you give me $20 and then go sell it for $120. Right?
Gotcha.
That's a break even. Or if it goes down to 80, you go and sell it on the open market, you're going to lose $20 and I'll give you $20. Right? That evens it out. That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So this is cash settled. Throw up this cash settled. This is kind of just the definition. That's what we're dealing with these Bitcoin futures. What is a cash settlement? A cash settlement is a settlement method used in certain futures and options contract where, upon expiration or exercise, the seller of the financial instrument does not deliver the actual underlying asset, but instead transfers the associated cash position. For sellers not wishing to take actual possession of the underlying cash commodity, a cash settlement is a more convenient method of transacting futures and options contract. For example, the purchaser of a cash-settled cotton futures contract is required to pay the difference between the spot price of cotton and the futures price rather than having to take ownership of physical bundles of cotton. So what does that end up meaning? What it ends up meaning is, so in the traditional physically settled, right? If I'm going to be in the cotton futures market as a seller, I actually have to have cotton.
Right.
Right? Like, I've got to be like, I have rice, or I will have rice at this time. I'm a rice producer. Mm-hmm. But if it's completely cash settled, the rice never has to actually appear. It's just cash moving back and forth between a contract. So what matters is we're basically, what we're doing at that point in a cash settled futures contract is we're just betting. It's basically a sports book at that point.
Yeah.
Right? We're doing the over-under. Mm-hmm. It's an over-under. It's an over-under on the price of whatever it is. And so what they do is, so the word margin was used there. So how this is basically worked out in these cash settled contracts is how they make sure that this is going to work is you have what's called a clearinghouse. They're kind of a middleman. So you and I make a contract, right? And let's say it's for that $100 sack of imaginary sack of rice. What we're really talking about is the price of rice. Let's say it starts out at $100. Mm-hmm. So the clearinghouse says, okay, this thing may move 20% on either side. That's what we're thinking. Mm-hmm. So you both have to put up 20% of today's price. So if it's $100, you both put in $20. This is sort of like your deposit. It's a bond, right? Margin bond. So you put in this bond. And this bond thing, the word bond and the fact that it's not being used in this case, a margin bond, is important because this is how 2008 fell apart. This was where the problems lied in 2008. So you and I, we put in this $20. And then what happens is something called mark to market. So that means these two pools of money, how you settle the contract is you settle it through these pools of money. So if the price goes down, the person on the long side, the buyer, so let's say the price goes down $2. Mm-hmm. $2 come out of my margin bond and are paid to this guy. And vice versa. And then by the end of the expiry, we basically get back what our bond was. And that's it. It's over. So potentially, let's say it goes up $20. Mm-hmm. The seller, the person on the short side, they've put in $20 into their margin. That $20 has been emptied out. It's been paid to me. The contract expires. I get my bond back. So now I'm sitting with $20 profit. I've got my bond of $20 back. I've got his $20. Boom, done. Contract settled. Wow. And he's out the $20 bond that he put up. Now, if it goes beyond $20, then his bond is completely gone, his margin is completely gone, and that's when you get the margin call. That third party is going to call him up and be like, you need to either put more money in this thing, or you're done playing the game. You're cashed out at this point. Are you going to put in more money to continue playing? Because what can happen is, and the reason why he might want to put in more money, is that swing might go in the other direction. And then he might get it all back. And so he can have his position sold at a very inexpensive price, basically, or they can take it over. The clearinghouse might even take it over and play his position. So what you're doing in the market is you're selling these betting positions that you're sitting in. Wow. Right? It's as though you had taken the over-under it's kind of almost like a parlay in a way. Like it's like you've taken the over-under, but then halfway through the game,
yeah, it's like
you try to sell your position away and have somebody else take over your bet. It's kind of like a parlay.
It's almost like renting a bet in a sense. Like
it's kind of what it is. It's kind of what it. So it's not the contract per se; it's the position, and these things are settled out on a daily basis as the price moves. But again, in this scenario, no one needs to even hold Bitcoin.
Yeah,
you've got a
crazy
Bitcoin futures market, and neither party on either end ever has to touch a Bitcoin.
Wow. I mean, that definitely makes it user-friendly.
It makes it user-friendly, but But the thing that you have to remember is that so let's think about it this way. A sports book, right? Let's say you're taking bets on boxing, right? Somebody takes the short position, which is the underdog. Somebody takes the long position, which is the guy who's more likely to win, right? So long as there's no fixing that can happen, this is all good. But as soon as somebody can tell somebody to take a fall, as soon as somebody can manipulate the referees in a game to change the score, as soon as you can manipulate a market, this sort of betting market becomes a place where you can you can hose it. And the problem is that the Bitcoin cash market, so like with corn or with wheat or with rice, these are regulated markets. And the futures markets are regulated. So yeah, you're placing a bet, but you're placing a bet just like you're placing a bet on the NFL, where it's like it's very unlikely that the referees have rigged the game or that one of the players is throwing the game, which is one of the reasons why you pay them so much. Right? It's one of the reasons that that if you have a big fight where there's going to be a lot of betting, you want to make sure that both of the people are getting paid a lot, so there's no financial incentive for them to take a dive. Right?
Makes sense.
Okay. But we don't know who's holding the Bitcoin. And there are there are just these weird rumblings. There's very few clearinghouses that are going to do this. Goldman Sachs is one, but another one of these is Interactive Brokers, who are known for high-frequency trading. I want you to listen to this interview. Now you understand the futures, right?
Yep.
You understand what the margin is. That's that bond that you put in that goes paid out, okay? And the cash settlement part. I want you to listen to this interview. This is from the CEO of Interactive Brokers. Is on CNBC. Tell me if there's anything weird here that stands out to you. Go ahead.
Interactive Brokers is one of the largest online brokers that will offer its customers futures trading in Bitcoin.
Oh, no.
Now the CEO, Thomas Petterfy, warned on this show a couple weeks back that Bitcoin should not clear with other products in the same trading house. He even took out this full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal blasting the cryptocurrency and the CME specifically for its move to list Bitcoin futures. He even went on as far as to say it could bring down the entire economy, but they will be the first to offer online trading come next week. Let's welcome back Thomas Petterfy, also known as the father of high-speed trading on the fast line. Thomas, great to have you back.
Thank you.
You're worried about a systemic risk for Bitcoin. You see Bitcoin possibly going to what? $0, and yet you are allowing customers to trade the futures come Monday?
Absolutely. So
Why?
Our clients have asked us to enable them to trade come Monday morning, and we will do that. We will offer trading, clearing, and custody of Bitcoin futures starting this Monday. However, we will not allow shorting. We will allow trading from the long side only, and we'll charge 50% margin.
Okay, so you cannot short. Why only allow being positioned long in the futures as opposed to being able to short Bitcoin effectively?
Because assume Bitcoin, say it is $16,000 right now. You charge 50% margin. The next day the market goes to over $24,000, which is the 50%. It gets locked in because there is a limit. It cannot go any further. We try to call our customers for margin. They don't have the money. We have to buy them in. We cannot buy them in because then there is no trading. The market is locked limit up. There are no sellers, and God knows what happens next. So as a result, I think that a number of smaller brokerage firms will go bankrupt, and that will destabilize the clearinghouse. And I think that the clearinghouse, in a great hurry, should begin working on putting Bitcoin in a separate legal entity. Otherwise, the Fed will have...
This is Brian Kelly. So I'm curious, it sounds to me like the issue here, and I can't disagree with you, is the limits, the trading limits, or when it stops trading. If they were to change the contract and just say, you know what, this is going to trade, there's not going to be a lock limit up or lock limit down, would that change your mind, and would you think then that it's not going to be a systemic risk?
Well, I don't know. It's certainly going to be easier, but there is still, who are the natural sellers of this product? Only the people who have Bitcoin. There aren't so many, there is not so much Bitcoin around. So if people come in en masse or buying, there won't be enough Bitcoin, there won't be enough sellers there.
So why not allow short selling then?
As far as I'm concerned, this price could go anywhere on the short run. On the long run, I'm pretty sure it will be zero.
It'll be zero.
So Thomas, come Sunday night, Monday morning, what are your expectations in terms of volume and how orderly this trade will be?
Well, I do not know how many brokers there will be who are ready to offer this. If there are lots of brokers and there are brokers who are allowing shorts, there'll be quite a bit of trading. If there are no brokers who allow sellers, then there'll be very little trading.
I'm just curious, Thomas, in terms of your decision to actually allow your customers to trade Bitcoin futures, what are you charging them? I mean, when you talk to a lot of people regarding the CBOE and then the CME and then the NASDAQ's launch into Bitcoin futures, they make the point that volatility has been low pretty much. Trading, they're basically going to make more because they're going to offer another product out there. Is that the way you look at it in terms of why you are offering customers the ability to trade futures?
So we usually charge between 25 cents and 80 cents a futures contract. Bitcoin is a very risky product. So we are going to start with $5 per futures contract.
So it's a multiple.
Yeah, we want to get paid for the risk.
All right. Thomas, do you trade Bitcoin yourself? Do you own Bitcoin?
No, I do. No, I don't.
You don't. You're a trader yourself. Are you curious about it, or what's your take on this asset?
I'm extremely curious. This is an amazing thing. How silly people are is just amazing to me.
With a nice snicker.
Yeah. How big do you think this could be for Interactive Brokers on the revenue side of things?
Well, I wouldn't even dare to guess. But I think that if you think about it, if this bubble keeps on continuing, I think that, I thought about it, and I think that the price could go well over $100,000 a coin before it crashes to nothing.
That it could go well over $100,000 a coin before it crashes to nothing. I also like the other part where he said, "This is amazing how silly people are." Okay.
Oh my God.
So, what is the thing that I found so interesting about this is, so they're offering to be the clearinghouse, so and custody. So they're basically offering to be the people who hold on to that margin money and move it between the two parties. Okay. Then they're also allowing trading. So meaning that you can sell your position, but the only person who they're allowing to sell the position is the long side. That's the only person. Is the person who's betting that it will go up.
Wow.
So the person betting that it will go down, they have to hold it.
Yeah.
But then that makes you wonder, because it's cash settled, like the right way to do this, that the clearinghouse, the right way, the honest and ethical way, and I couldn't tell if he was saying that. And I don't know if the reason why they're not allowing the short position to get sold is because they don't want this kind of like exposure, but are they as a clearinghouse requiring that if you want to start a futures contract and you want to come in on the seller side, that you actually own the Bitcoin in question? Like, are they demanding, and how are they demanding that you do that? Like, to show them the hashes? Like, what are they doing? Because otherwise, it's just a bet. Why would you not allow the bet to be traded on the other side?
I was thinking the same thing. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Like, could you? So imagine that's a clearinghouse is basically like a sports book. Okay. Why would you only, like? It doesn't make any sense that it's like, why would you only allow the bets to be moving around like on the Floyd Mayweather side?
Yeah.
Of course you wouldn't do that. You'd allow the bets to be moving around on both sides.
Strange.
Yeah, that one, and even the hosts were like, I don't understand. Why are you not allowing?
Yeah,
Why are you
and
not allowing trading on the short
The
side?
other
Like
guy
that
had
doesn't
to
even
get
make any
on.
sense.
The guy that seemed like he understood a little bit more.
Yeah, right. He was like, "What the fuck? What the hell? Like, why are you not doing that?" So, let's see what the market looks like today, and then I'm going to tell you what I think this whole thing is and what I think is going on. I've been saying it a little bit on Twitter, but now that we have an idea of what this actual mechanism is, let's look at what the actual prices are at this point. So what we're looking at here is the actual futures market. What is the Bitcoin price today? Is a 16 something like that. So they've got three different contracts that are out, contract types that are out right now. One of them expires on January 17th. One of them expires on February 14th. One of them expires on March 14th. The prices on those are different. There's obviously more volume on the one that expires just, basically in a month from now, January. You've got the high of the day, the low of the day. The high of the day for the one that expires in January is $18,850. The low was $15,420. The settlement, which was where it closed, the last closing was $15,460. And basically what that means is that that's the point at which the new buyer of the contract who's bought it, if on the long side, that's where they will make their money. Mm-hmm. So yesterday, 15,460, like that's where it settles out, and it's by the day, right? So today you have a situation where, like, if it closed out at 18,850, see, and this is a problem because it's so high. They start to like stop the trading because it gets so high that the margins start to be reduced. Like people's whole entire bond gets reduced down to nothing in one day. It can happen, right? And then this starts to crash the market. Okay, so 2,000 at this point, $2,300 potentially is what the person on the long side made on that contract today. Today they got paid that. So that's a hell of a win.
Yeah. It's not bad.
And so basically what it is that the idea behind the futures contract, you can come back to us, the idea is, so you can see the idea behind the futures contract is you get involved, you get there, and you basically get paid by the day based on, you just either get cash paid to you or you pay cash out based on the change in the price without ever having to trade the Bitcoin, actual Bitcoin on an open market. But you can see how silly and ridiculous doing something like that is, because it's like, but this isn't even related to the Bitcoin market. Like it's only tertiarily related.
Yeah.
So what happened in 2008 was, so there are derivatives of derivatives. So you figure, in addition to this, let's say you start a contract, right? And you're like, all right, I think that it's going to go up, but just in case, let me buy some insurance, like in blackjack.
Oh, I see.
Let me buy insurance to hedge in case I lose. Well, that was what AIG was providing, these credit default swaps on these bonds. So the idea was like, if you had bet correctly, you got the money. If you had bet incorrectly, you had also paid for a little bit of insurance, so your loss was mitigated by the insurance. But if everybody loses at the same time, and they've insured it, then AIG has to pay out. And then they were selling the credit default swaps. So they were selling the insurance as well on another market. And there were hedge funds buying up that insurance. And so that's why it cascaded through all these different, because everybody was leveraged. Right? So this loss, and that's when he's saying it could affect the whole economy. Because what ends up happening is like you insure against this loss, and then someone insures against this one, and then you insure against this one, and it's this massive game all related to this one bet. Now, Here's what I believe. So we saw this massive run up. That was what, Thursday, something like that, Wednesday,
Yeah.
Thursday, where Bitcoin went from like 12,000 to 19,000 on some markets, and then it settled back down at like 16, which is basically where it's at right now. We saw this massive run up. We saw a run up, though, not across every single blockchain. We saw it only in Bitcoin.
Yeah, only Bitcoin.
To me, that indicates, okay, this is not legitimate interest in the
Manipulation.
sphere. Because when we've had that at other times, a rising tide lifts all boats. You
Yeah.
see other people jumping
Right.
into other stuff as well because they're like, oh, this is going to go up. We saw only that. Then, the next day, we saw all the others go up except for Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason for this is because people are doing profit taking. They can't get out into cash. So they're like, I want to take the profit from that because now I believe that Bitcoin's price is going to go down. I'm going to take profit by moving it into one of these other, and that's why you see Litecoin going up. So these are the hodlers. These are the people who are like, hold.
Yeah.
The reason you're seeing Litecoin go up is because Charlie Lee was so smart in this, man. He ingratiated himself with the BTC people, took their side in the whole scaling debate, right? To had them talking about, Litecoin, no, Litecoin's good for it. I also believe in Litecoin. I also like Litecoin. I also like Litecoin. So when they take profits, but they can't get out to cash, in their mind, psychologically, they go to Litecoin. And so Litecoin sees whatever the gains were. So they're moving between, it's going to be a move between Litecoin and Bitcoin for the hodlers, for the actual people. But who I believe ran up the price is I believe it was institutional investors bringing brand new money in.
Yeah, because it brings up an interesting point. Because if they run the price up,
Now you're seeing it.
they run the price up. The price goes up from other people too, so they're going to make money there. Not a lot of money, but a little bit of money. But then they have the futures, and all they have to do is pull their money from Bitcoin.
You've got it. Take the short side,
Yeah,
right? Take the short side, and then crash the market and take all the margins from everybody who traded on the long side.
yeah,
Which is why it's so suspect to me that this dude Petterfee is like, no, we're only allowing long side. And I'm like, who's on the short side then? Who's on the fucking short side? You're letting something happen because it's a two-party deal. If you're the clearinghouse, it's a two-party deal. So what? And they're charging $5, basically $5 a trade, $5 a contract, but it's only the long side. So they're making money on that. They're making money on being the clearinghouse. And then when this whole fucking thing crashes, because when it goes up, you trade your contract away. When it's crashing, you're trying to trade your long position away as it crashes. And they make the money.
yeah.
And that's what he's saying. Go up to 100,000 and then back down to, he's betting on that. He's betting on getting the money on the way up. He's betting on getting it on the way down. And it's like, it's completely unregulated. Why would these big trading houses not be in control of an amount that can manipulate the market? Here's the other thing. This first market, CBOE, where they pull the price from is, so if you go to coinmarketcap.com, for instance, they're pulling an average of prices from like 20 different markets, right? Some markets can be wildly different. I mean, they could be
Yeah, I was
apart
wondering
from each other
how
by
that worked.
30%. So they average it, right? This CBOE, this futures market, this first futures market is only pulling from one exchange, and that's Gemini, which is not even like the biggest exchange. As a matter of fact, even during that that run up where there was all this trading, the total volume was only $400 million. Now, to move a market where the total volume is $400 million, $100 million will do that. That's nothing in this case. That's absolutely nothing. For them to make an absolute killing, so what do they get? One, they get to win and make insane profits on the futures side, both from the trading up and down and from taking the short position. That's the first thing. So they get to double dip there. Two, they get to strike a massive blow to cryptocurrency. Just in terms of the confidence, right? And to show, oh yeah, this is just a silly, this was nothing, this was a bubble, this was tulip mania. It has they're already throwing the narrative, it has absolutely no use, all of this, which BTC has no use besides this. But it's going to tar all of the entire sector, right? Most importantly, number three, there's going to be all these people, mom and pops, who are unsophisticated investors who have just in the past month or so bought Bitcoin, who when that price crashes, because these big trading houses have crashed it on purpose, they're going to be screaming out, I lost money, it was a scam, somebody's head has to roll, there's going to be a Madoff, just like there was, right? Madoff had nothing to do with derivatives. Madoff had nothing to do with any of that shit. He had nothing to do with AIG. He had nothing to do with Bear Stearns and the things that they did. Madoff was just a straight up fucking Ponzi scheme. So I have a feeling, mark my words on this, these BitConnect people who are basically doing a Ponzi scheme, their heads are going to roll. They're going to be the sacrificial lamb.
Oh shit.
But at the same time, this market's going to be dropped. There's going to come a demand from those, they're going to trot out these moms and pops who lost their money and say, the government needs to crack down, the government needs to regulate, but financial regulation is a revolving door between the big trading houses. So you go from being the CEO of Goldman Sachs to becoming the Treasury Secretary. That's how this shit works. Or becoming the head of the SEC. That's how this fucking shit works. So it's like, they're going to get to, if they're not playing this game, it costs them so little money to basically be able to wield to make insane profits, and then to wield the power of the state to make even more money in the future by controlling the market, which is exactly what they did in 2008.
Crazy.
They destroyed the market and wound up with bailouts paying bonuses to all of their executives in the multi-hundreds of millions of dollars because that was success. Success, we lost nothing.
Wow. Man.
That's what this is. I don't know that we make it to NASDAQ opening. We're going to make it to CME opening. I don't know that we make it to NASDAQ opening. This is all about BTC. Now, here's the thing. For me, the most important part of this is an understanding that what I'm not going to change in terms of what I'm moving towards, because what I'm moving towards is the commercial application of this.
Yeah.
That's what's important. Using it as currency, not using it as the speculation, not using it as betting. The rest of it's going to be tarred, but it's one reason why I'm glad there was a fork of Bitcoin Cash.
Bitcoin Cash.
I think Litecoin has tied itself too tightly to Bitcoin. I think that, and now the price is at a place where their fees don't even make sense anymore. Right? Dash, we'll see. We'll see. Ethereum is still having its issues with CryptoKitties, but I think that some of that gets. But are you good on the futures? I think because you saw it. You saw it. Once you get it, it's obvious what the fuck is happening.
It's clear. It's clear
Right?
what's happening.
So
It's good to know these things too, because it's gonna put a bad taste in people's mouths with cryptocurrency, like
the brand Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Who knows what the hell? Like I said a tweet where it's like, there's this people on the Bitcoin Cash thing, the sort of like trolly insult is to call it Bcash. That's what got Roger Ver in all that trouble in some interview where now there's memes of him going like, because this dude just kept calling it Bcash. And it's like, no, it's Bitcoin Cash, but it's almost like maybe. By the time this is over, you may not want Bitcoin attached anywhere to your name. Anywhere.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's shitty. It's shitty.
But it
I
totally
mean,
makes sense, and it totally gives them control. They can control it.
I don't believe that there could be anything other than that. Let's just put it like that. Let's go. News number 2, because it ties directly into what the future of this whole thing looks like. So, we have already, we're talking about the speculative value of Bitcoin potentially going to zero with this whole thing happening. But the commercial value of Bitcoin, I've been saying for a long time, it's unusable. I mean, I've said on this show, I've said publicly for a better part of a year that I have zero confidence in Bitcoin. I've said the reasons why, mainly because the fees and the confirmation times, and that's exactly what a lot of people have said. And that nothing becomes a store of value until it can actually be used as a means of exchange, that's what comes first. Bitcoin has been used as a means of exchange, but it's coming to a point now with some news that other people are coming around to saying, you know what, we would like to use it as a means of exchange, but we really can't. Let's show this Steam story. This is from Coinivore. Video game giant Valve announces they will end Bitcoin payments on Steam due to high fees and long confirmation times. Video game giant Valve has suspended accepting Bitcoin payments from its online store. Steam will no longer support Bitcoin as a payment option due to high volatility and ever-increasing transaction fees and long block confirmation times on the Bitcoin network. The announcement came in a blog post on Steam yesterday. Valve notes that some of its customers' Bitcoin transactions have seen fees as high as $20 compared to the original 20 cents when Bitcoin support was first added. In an effort to prevent customers from wasting money on fees and to protect itself from volatility, Valve has simply decided to remove Bitcoin as an option during checkout. The other reason that Valve decided to remove Bitcoin from its payment processor is the volatility of Bitcoin posed a problem for issuing its customers refunds. After giving customers a payment window due to Bitcoin's slow confirmation time, sometimes taking several hours for their transaction to confirm on the Bitcoin blockchain, the value of the coin had changed significantly. So when a gamer requested a refund, it left a gray area as to whether they should refund the US dollar equivalent of their transaction, or if they should give back their value in Bitcoin, which could be more or less depending on the price swing. So Christian, high fees, crazy transaction times directly related to the high fees, or they're correlated to each other. And then here's the other one, price volatility. Now, if someone goes and searches at Vin Armani and the word volatility, I've been screaming this from the rooftop that merchants don't want a currency that has this level of volatility. Yeah. They want price stability in their currency for this exact reason.
Yeah, well, you can't, because what if you went to go buy a t-shirt at a store and you went to go pay in Bitcoin and it dropped 2,000 and you don't have enough to pay for it or whatever?
Well, they're bringing up a very good point that's about refunds.
Yeah, that too.
Right? That it's like, well, what do we do when the value has gone up? This person's got 30 days to issue a refund, but what if the price of the Bitcoin has gone up by, because it's in our possession as the price is going up, but they paid us in Bitcoin. So let's say it's doubled. So let's say they paid $20 US in Bitcoin for a video game. And then they ask for a refund 30 days later, but in that 30 days, it's gone up to $40. Well, do we give them back $20 in Bitcoin, which is half the Bitcoin that they gave us, or do we give them back all of the Bitcoin? Like, this becomes, the fact that you even have to ask that question with this currency makes the currency less attractive. And it's so, if you, I entreat people to go, it's like, I was talking about this weekend with a friend of mine. I hate doing this I told you so thing, but it's just one of those things where it's like, it's so frustrating to me, and I almost don't know how to handle it. Like, I almost don't know how to handle a situation, and it's why I understand somebody like Roger Ver and his frustration, why he just gets frustrated, because it's like, why are we, like, you're still arguing. Like, what I told you, so I say merchants don't like volatility in their currency. Here comes one of the biggest online retailers in the world. Steam is one of the biggest retailers of digital products in the world. They were an early adopter of this currency. One of the things that we have to have in order for this thing to move forward is merchant adoption. So when you have a massive merchant who takes on this currency, and then they say, well, you know what? We're dropping it. It's a lot to completely drop a form of payment. Like, shit has to be really bad And if the reason why they drop it is high fees, slow confirmation times, and volatility, the three things that for months everybody on we're not on the BCH side, we're on the we would like to see Bitcoin operate as a currency side. And it's like the fact that people on the other side are still like, they're so ideologically possessed that it's like, no, we told you merchants don't want that and that merchants will not accept it. Not only are they not accepting it, this one dropped it. If this was, that would be like, you imagine if Amazon said, we are no longer going to accept Visa payments at all. Mm-hmm. What would happen to Visa stock?
Oh my God.
But Steam says we are no longer going to accept Bitcoin payments and nothing happens to the price of Bitcoin. Talk about price discovery. This shit is all fucked up. Mm-hmm. It's all fucked up. And at the same time, I've been saying, like, and you know, the people on that BTC side are like, well, look at all the gains that BTC has had, and then look at Bitcoin Cash has stayed like the same. Yeah. Like,
oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the sign of a valuable fucking currency. Like, that's what a merchant would want to adopt. They don't want that volatility. And here's the reason. So in this case, Valve is specifically saying the fact that the price is going up so much makes it unusable. Mm-hmm. It's not a positive. Price going up is not always a positive. That's what people don't understand. There are two sides of the contract. Well, actually, there's three. Because there's also a side that the value comes from, or there's a party involved in the market where the value comes from stable prices. And that's the end consumer. Mm-hmm. So you've got Steam, Valve doing that. Same week. So Steam uses BitPay, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So throw this BitPay. Same week, this comes up. This is a tweet from BitPay, who's the biggest payment processor, but they only use Bitcoin. It says BitPay is raising a $30 million Series B funding round to expand and add new cryptocurrencies. BitPay announced today that it is raising $30 million in a strategic Series B funding round led by Aquiline Technology Growth, a fund managed by Aquiline Capital Partners that invests in early and growth stage financial technology companies. BitPay's platform gives businesses and individuals powerful tools for secure blockchain payment acceptance, saving, and spending. In 2017, the company has achieved a record year for merchant payment processing on the Bitcoin blockchain, now approaching $2 billion in annualized payment volumes. BitPay's open source wallet platform has been growing consumer adoption, recently reaching their milestone of $3 billion in monthly user payments. BitPay's prepaid Visa debit card, which lets Bitcoin users turn Bitcoin into dollars, pounds, or euros for use with Visa merchants, has also seen significant year-over-year growth. So, Christian, they only accept Bitcoin because of the same exact problems that Valve is experiencing. They're like, we're going to natively add new blockchains. Mm-hmm. So you go to check out with a merchant who uses BitPay. So, for instance, I use gift.com, gyft.com. I've stopped using it. Because it's unusable with the way that the fees are. Why am I going to buy a $50 gift card or a $100 gift card that is going to cost me an additional $20 in miner fees? It doesn't go to gift.com. It doesn't go to the merchant. It goes just into the ether to the miners. The miners are making the money off it. Why the fuck would I do that? No, I'll just go pay cash. Mm-hmm. I'll just go pay cash. I'd rather do it that way. So they're going to add to, now it's like you log in and it says, okay, pay with cryptocurrency. You're on BitPay, and it'll be like, which one do you want to pay with? And they're saying that they're adding within the next 2 months, they're going to have at least one new cryptocurrency in there.
Nice.
So what is that going to be? My guess, Bitcoin Cash, because that's going to be the easiest from a technical standpoint for them to just add on. Bitcoin Cash. That's going to effectively take Bitcoin out of the mix once BitPay does that. And if Coinbase does it too, because Coinbase could easily accept Litecoin and Ethereum because they sell those. right? They trade in those. They exchange those. If they were to accept on their, because they have a merchant platform as well, Expedia uses their merchant platform. So if they were to change out and say, hey, you can also pay in Ethereum, you can also pay in Litecoin, no one will pay in Bitcoin. No one will pay in BTC.
It's too expensive.
There's no reason. It's expensive. It's more expensive and it's slower than either of those other two. Why the fuck would you do it? You wouldn't. So fundamentally, what we're seeing is the end of BTC. It's fucked itself. SegWit coin is gone in terms of as use of a currency. It's going to lose its entire position. The first mover status is going to be gone. It's going to lose that. And then this futures market is just going to lead to an incentive by all of the big financial players to manipulate the Bitcoin market. Basically, it's like, getting fighters to throw fights.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. This is nothing new. Like, people should be scared to death to be holding BTC right now. They should be freaking the fuck out. Because now because before there was not really an incentive. And I mean, even in that article where it says, traders were frustrated by the technical difficulty in shorting Bitcoin. Now there's no technical difficulty. So if you can short it and you can manipulate the market, oh, for fuck's sake.
Jesus.
For fuck's sake. So they had to get the price up high to start out. That's what that was. They had to run up the price because the contracts are made on what the daily price is on the day of the contract.
And think about the network effect on that. Like, everybody's like, oh my God, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Like, all from every direction.
Well, they control the financial media too. Those guys control the financial media too.
Yeah,
They're the ones advertising.
I've had people come out of the woodworks just because I talk a little bit about Bitcoin on my Facebook page or cryptocurrency on my Facebook page, asking me all kinds of questions about it.
This is the power of memes. Bitcoin is a new meme.
Yeah, it is.
Which now we're coming up on our second hour, and we have the newly reigning meme kingpin, it appears, especially in the libertarian movement. Mance Rayder is our guest.
Dude.
So I can't wait to talk to him about his new book. Let's go to break, and we will come back with that.
The spirit of art. The spirit of technology. The spirit of individuality. Baby Vodka. An ultra-premium spirit conceived by Vin Armani. Handcrafted and distilled in Las Vegas by master distiller George Rotz. Each bottle, a celebration of the individual, custom engraved and hand-signed by the creators. Each element blending in harmony to create a beautiful experience beyond imagination. Baby Vodka, the spirit of Vegas. Created by Vin Armani. Tailored by Christian Rays. Available for purchase exclusively with cryptocurrency at babyvodka.com.
Welcome back to the Vin Armani Show. We are streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Vin Armani. Also on Twitter and Periscope at Vin Armani is my handle there. We are proud members of the Activist Post Podcast Network, so you can check out all of our shows there on activistpost.com. So before we get to our guests, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about counter markets. At countermarkets.com, trends and strategies for maximum freedom. Our last issue of the year is out, the December issue. If you have not gotten your issue for free, your free issue, go to countermarkets.com. You can get the December issue. It's just getting better and better. Like, I'm really, really enjoying being a part of this particular project. From month to month, it's getting better. We've had so many predictions about where this market is going, and this month is no different. My article, in fact, is about Monero mining within the browser, which is going to be something that is going to affect everyone and may, in fact, change the entire landscape in terms of monetization online. So whether you're a small business owner, whether you're somebody who's even interested in financial trading in these new markets, whether you're somebody who just wants to know what's coming next, and have something to talk about at cocktail parties, this is certainly something that will make you seem a lot smarter reading this every month. People have been reaching out to me and saying, dude, I just look forward to the new issue of Counter Markets. It's weird because we're living in a time where things move so fast that we'll write something that will seem like science fiction at the time, and it's everywhere in the news within 6 months. So it's a fun process. I'm enjoying being part of it, and I would love to have you be a part of it too. And you can do that by going to countermarkets.com and getting your first issue for free. And of course, if you want to subscribe, which I know that you will, you'll get a massive discount by paying with cryptocurrency. And we accept more than just Bitcoin, and we always have. So we'll take your Litecoin, your Dash, your Ethereum, your Bitcoin Cash. We'll take your Monero and your Zcash. Bring it on. Countermarkets.com, trends and strategies for maximum freedom. And with that, let's go to our interview with our guest, Mance Rayder. My guest today is Mance Rayder. Mance Rayder is the host of the Free Man Behind the Wall podcast, meme creator and curator, and author of the new book, Freedom Through Memedom, the 31-Day Guide to Waking Up to Liberty, available now for purchase on Amazon. Mance Rayder, welcome to the Vin Armani Show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to talk to you again, Vin.
Yeah. I had a great time on your show. I'm glad to have you on. Man, you've sort of burst onto the scene just gangbusters, and it's great that you've already gone so far as to write this book, which I really, really enjoy. I think people should pick it up. Here's the cover: Freedom Through Memedom, the 31-Day Guide to Waking Up to Liberty. Scott Horton did the foreword on it. It's great. I encourage everybody to pick it up, and we'll talk about it. But I wanted to know, well, first off, for those people who don't know you, they should definitely follow you. Your Twitter's there. Great memes. How did you come to the ideas of liberty? I know that your memes go beyond that, but it seems like they have this coherent narrative to them. How did you come to those ideas? What made you decide to sort of go public with the podcast and with the memes? How did you come to all that?
Well, how I came to liberty is actually pretty boring. It's a lot of people have the same story. It was Ron Paul 2007. The thoughts that he had. I'll give you an idea. I took a test in a magazine, and I'm pretty sure it was like High Times in like 1990. And it was the political test, the political spectrum test. And it said I was a libertarian. And at that point, all I figured was, well, I like to smoke weed. This is cool. All right, I'm a libertarian, whatever. But after 9/11, you get scared, you get really disillusioned with a lot of things, and I didn't know what I believed. I had anger. I wanted to see people pay for what happened. Then a little while after, I started having questions about exactly what happened and how it happened, and I just basically dropped out until I heard Ron Paul talking at the debates in 2007. And he was talking about liberty, and it's something that I've always wanted. I just want to be free. I want to be left alone. And when I saw that people weren't going to vote for him, I just became disillusioned. I started reading a lot of books. I abandoned the political process altogether. And in 2012, when Ron Paul ran again, I didn't even pay attention to that election. I was doing things. I was working, you might want to say, off the books at the time, doing some things, and I was busy. And when this past election rolled around, I was absolutely floored that we had, that society had become a Jerry Springer show. And I went back to my voluntarist, anarcho-capitalist, anarchist roots. And I had this old Twitter account that had been sitting there since probably 2009. And I'd always liked memes. I've been a freedom lover for a long time. I'm also what you would call a quote unquote gun nut. And we always had, those two have had memes going, posting all over social media for, 7, 8, 9 years, 10 years.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, it's something that I like. It's something that I know how to do. It's something that I enjoy. So I started blasting memes and about all over Twitter. And I think when I started, I didn't even have 100 followers. And quickly it just skyrocketed and people started following me. There were a lot of divisions within libertarian, voluntarist circles after the election, during the election. And I'm a purist. And a lot of the people who are purists just gravitated to me. And, we just started having fun with it. And, I decided I wanted to do a podcast. So I started a podcast. I asked you about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually had some very encouraging words there. That book, the book which I have written, would probably not be written if it wasn't for you.
I appreciate
because
that.
Yeah, you told me, privately that memes are a very powerful way to communicate. And I know, the average Joe out there, what we might want to call normies, they look at memes as a joke, but they're really not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of information packed into a little package. Some of it can become very strawmanish, but still it can get a conversation going. It can get someone asking questions, and it can upset somebody. And one of the great ways to change people's minds is to upset them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the movie Spare Change, the idea of it upset me, but then when I sat down and watched it, there were questions that needed to be answered in it. And I started doing a meme of the day, where I would pick a meme, I would comment on it 3 to 6 minutes, boom, 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 get out. People didn't have to be bogged down for an hour listening to me talk. And that meme of the day idea is what brought me to the book, which is a meme a day for 31 days, a short commentary from me. I try to pack as much as I can into that commentary and really try to make you think. And I try to create arguments that they can't be broken. And I come at it from, I know my economics. I know pretty much everything that the libertarians are famous for, but I really come at it from the philosophical moral side of it. It's, why are we doing this? It's one of the reasons
Mm-hmm.
why I asked Scott Horton if he would write the foreword for my book, because Scott Horton is a libertarian anarchist who comes at everything from anti-war.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, in order to be anti-war, there has to be a huge sense of morality there. And he the fact that he did it and said yes it floored me. I was humbled beyond belief. And he read the whole thing and actually proofed some things for me. And he said, yeah, I'll do this. And when he said, yes, I'll do this, somebody who had just put out a book like Fool's Errand, which is one of the best books on foreign policy I've ever read, would agree to, do a forward for this stupid meme book. It made me believe that it was something powerful, and that it was something that I could really use to change a lot of people's minds. So that's where I'm at.
It seems that if I had to guess, because I've held these views for a long time as well. I was actually just telling Christian a few weeks ago that I had gone to a storage locker of mine and found some notebooks that I had been writing essays in, political, philosophical, from all the way back to like 2001, and I'm reading them and I'm like, oh wow, I've held these views for like a long time. Now they're getting more crystallized, but I think the memes, I think, have made it so easy, and why we're seeing the libertarian movement move forward. I think a lot of it has to do with memes, because it's such a simple philosophy, really, because it's so principled that it's so simple to get things across. Your book is fantastic. I think that it's an important new format. You've hit a format that I think is something brand new in the political arena. I hope that you move it forward. I hope this isn't the last one that you do. I hope it's a series.
I already know what the next one's going to be.
Good. So, but what I did want to talk with you about, because we've had Scott Horton on the show. We love him. We've had Anarchy Ball on the show. I think, in terms of people who are becoming known, you certainly have become the rising star of sort of the scene with the memes. Anarchy Ball's been around, very established. You two have definitely different styles in that, and what I wanted to talk with you a little bit about, because I think it's one of the most powerful things about sort of your style of curation, is that you don't just stick to the purely political angle. That I think some of the most powerful memes that you put out are just commentary on cultural commentary, but that fit very well with with your idea of, this country has become a Jerry Springer show. Just if you could speak a little bit about what informs you because it seems like the thread is very clear as it goes through. What is it that strikes you when you see something that you're like, okay, yeah, this isn't the political side, but it's the cultural side, but yet it's related? How do you Is that just by instinct that you're going, or do you have some sort of a formula that you've worked out as you've been going through this?
What's funny is there are more memes that I do not post that I do, because I do have a formula. The formula is that I want to break people's preconceptions down about authority. And whether that authority is sitting in Washington, D.C., or sitting in Atlanta here in Georgia, or sitting in the headmaster's office in a college, or where the real power now is in college is sitting in the dorm rooms where 5 or 6 people with different colored hair and Che Guevara T-shirts are plotting their next act of violence.
Right.
And that's what I want, I mean, and not only plotting their next act of violence, but are completely 100% influenced by an ideology of democide that has killed 100 million people in the last 125 years. I mean, they're communists. And that's what the next book is going to be. It's going to be an attack on the culture. It's the culture of political correctness, the culture of you can't say that, the culture of the Che Guevara T-shirt, the culture of the hammer and sickle. Mm-hmm. I mean, what has happened? How are these kids raised that they would get that? Their minds were so open to this when they get to college. I was raised when the Soviet Union was, I understand now that it was more propaganda than anything. Sure. But the horrors of it. I mean, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, is Ukrainian. And she's the only surviving member of her family from the starvations, the Holodomor in the Ukraine that Stalin perpetrated. And I had someone on Twitter just last night tell me that never happened. I mean, let's start denying every atrocity. because I'm sure that this person wouldn't deny the Holocaust because they're anti-Nazi,
Right.
They're anti-fascist, but they're willing to deny one of the most documented starvations, planned starvations in history, because it would hurt their ideology. It would make their ideology look bad. Or their professor found a book somewhere where somebody made a halfway decent argument that it didn't happen. I mean, when I'm putting together these memes to post, and a lot of times it just, I'm just firing them off. And I work, so I can only do it when I have a lot of time. And people think, oh, you're always on Twitter, you're always on social media. How the hell do you, you don't have a job,
right?
That's everybody's like, you don't have a job. It's like, I usually work 55 hours a week, so I just happen to have a lot of free time at work, and a lot of times I don't have free time at work. And you can look at it, and if you look at the times when I'm posting stuff, a lot of it is all at once, and then you won't see me for an hour and a half, 2 hours, but there's a rhyme or reason. I pick them because, and you can look at it in the book. If you look in the book, you go from day 1 to day 31. You may not be able to notice a pattern of how I chose each day to lead into the next. And in some places, I just did sections where I threw random stuff in there just to get you off that path for a little while, so that you can just relax. But yeah, there's a method to the madness. Every when it comes to the memes, there's a method to my madness, and there's a lot of madness I'm dealing with here.
What have you found? Because you have to have some.
Oh, and by the way, let me
yes, go ahead. Go, please.
You mentioned that Anarchy Ball and I are somewhat different. I'm actually a moderator on the Anarchy Ball Facebook
that's
page.
Interesting.
But you can, I think if you follow the memes that we post, you can pretty much tell mine, because mine actually take a different, they're a different direction. A lot of times they'll be more towards, more towards an attack on the, more towards an attack on the culture, or just a direct fire on the government, where when those guys, when they do memes, they're a little more subtle than I am.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. I love their memes because of the subtlety. I can't be subtle. I'm just gonna get in your face, and that's the kind of that's the way. I'm from New York. I'm from the Bronx. I left the Bronx when I was 18. I was raised in the city, and I was raised. I went to Catholic schools, and I played hockey. I don't have any chill when it comes to most things. It's you're going to get it straightforward. So
what have you found are the either the individual memes or series or themes that have you found that there's a pattern to particular memes, or what is the most popular style of meme, the one that it just seems everybody is instantly liking and reposting and commenting on? Is there any pattern to that? Is there any particular type of meme that people are just immediately they just gravitate toward?
Nowadays, it's you will get more people retweeting and liking anything about the culture, attacking social justice warriors, attacking even the especially not the transgender community. I don't think anybody has any problems with the transgender community, but that small section that is trying to regulate free speech, or is trying to say, you have to believe that this is normal. Well, no, you don't have to believe anything. You're free to believe whatever you want. If you're a hateful asshole, we're going to call you. I'm going to call you a hateful asshole. If you're just, I wasn't raised that way, so I don't want anything to do with it. I can respect that, but it's these people. It's the people in the memes that really seem to hit home are the ones that are in the culture, and really go after the people who are coming after us. Mm-hmm. And as far as the political ones go, The political ones are always ones where you're calling out the hypocrisy of politicians. You know, they do. You know, they say to do one thing, they get caught doing another thing. Or, you know, I mean, it's just like, I mean, when I was growing up, it was, you know, Reagan was, you know, the first president who let in, you know, he let the religious right into the White House and let them started to try to reshape the culture. And there was so much backlash to that, and, you know, especially growing up in New York City, where, you know, Catholicism is the main, you know, and Catholicism, it's very rare. If you're in a room of 100 Catholics, and I can tell you this because I went to Catholic school, 3 of them are very serious about it. Everybody else, it's tradition, and yeah, that's my. You don't need to slam Vin and go crazy sending an email to Vin. This is my opinion. Okay, you believe me. A couple of my best friends are hardcore Catholic. Love them to death. We disagree on everything, but you know, it's the hypocrisy is anytime you can do anything where you're calling out in a meme where you're calling out hypocrisy, how somebody will say something, you know, it's like, here's one that has to do with the culture, is all the anti-Trump people say that Trump is Hitler and that he's a fascist. The same people want to take away our guns. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, fucking choose one. I mean, how do you say that there's a fascist in the White House and then you want to disarm the populace who, you know, the people who used to be in the military, the people who've trained with the people who were in the military, right, the people who can put together a fighting force, you know, if it came down to that, how do you want to disarm them? Well, no, you're just talking out of they just talk out of their ass. And they you know, especially on social media, they just post up whatever can get the most retweets. You know, I mean, there's somebody posting right now about how all men should be castrated, and, you know, and she's posting this for days and days, and I'm like, I'm not going to give her any attention. I'm not going to give her any retweets. That's all she wants. You know, so that's a lot of what I see, and that's what I think. That's everybody who's making memes right now, and there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people I think that are way better than me at it. They're looking at that, and that's what they're answering with their memes. They're going after them.
I mean, it's interesting to me, you know, hearing you bring this up about these people tweeting sort of these logical inconsistencies. I found that some of your best work has actually literally just been a screen capture of somebody else's tweet, you know, that was just so ridiculous and so out there, which I want your opinion.
Well, you notice I don't share them.
Right.
I'm not directly sharing their tweet.
No, right.
Because I'm not going to give them the retweet.
Well, that brings me. That was what I wanted your opinion on. Is that what I find so shocking is that, you know, you'll post these, and to me, I'm just like, well, I can't believe this person said it. But then I look at how many likes and retweets some of these ridiculous statements have, and I'm like, thousands, tens of thousands. Are people just not paying attention? I mean, is it? I like it is, because it doesn't seem like this takes a whole lot of intelligence. Where is this coming from? Are people just moving this this ideological message along because of who the person is? Like, what is going on with that, when it seems so simple that, like, this person's insane and other people are liking and retweeting like there's no tomorrow?
Well, especially right now, what I think is anything that is counterculture. Because of the Trump election, Trump got elected. That means that 50% of the country is white supremacists and Nazis. Mm. So, they're reactionaries. They're just throwing stuff up there, and, you know, I think they're liking it. You know, they're putting likes and they're putting retweets on it just so that they can give the impression that everybody thinks this way. You know, that, hey, the majority of us don't like the direction this country's going in, you know, where the average, you know, I would think the average Trump voter is just somebody who bought into the whole bullshit about how he's going to bring jobs home. And, you know, I mean, I was going to go off on a tangent there, but I won't. I think that's what it is. I think that you see like this ridiculous tweet about how men need to be castrated or something like that, and then you see that it has 31,000 likes and it's been retweeted 20,000 times, and all it is I think they're trying to trigger people. I think they're trying to they're trying the right has been doing such an insane job of and the right's not these fuckers aren't innocent in this either. I mean, they go way over the top to try to trigger them. Now, I think sometimes, I think the right's more clever. I think the left turns out being cruel, and the right just turns out being ridiculous. Because the popular phrase now, the left can't meme.
Right. I was just about to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a theory on why.
Okay, please.
Is because when we make memes, when ANCAPs, voluntarists, anarchists make memes, we're people that believe in a free market, people that believe in true freedom. There are anarchists that, if you're listening to this, you realize there are people who call themselves anarchists who believe in absolute freedom and believe that violence is only to be done in self-defense. I would consider myself one of them.
Me too.
But when the left is when the right's memeing against the left are a bunch of collectivists. They all try to believe the same thing, toe the same party line, and all this. So if you throw a meme out there, it's going to hit pretty much all of them.
Right.
One meme is going to hit all of them. And even if the left tries to meme against the right, if they were more clever about it, they could probably have some good memes, but they always turn out being really mean. And you just read it and you're like, there's nothing clever about this. Trying to meme against anarchists, voluntarists, and ANCAPs is completely useless because most of us don't like each other.
Right.
So we're not collectivists. You might hit one of us. You might hit two of us.
Right.
But whatever the meme is about, I'm gonna if you're memeing about if whatever you're memeing about, you just want to starve you just want to starve children. You want to have Walmart be the government. Well, no, I don't want to have Walmart be the government. Not. So this is a ridiculous meme. So it's like we're a bunch of individualist assholes, and it's like, go ahead, try to meme again. You're trying to meme against a group of people who can probably agree on like 80 to 90% of stuff, but then we have violent discussions and fights about the other 10%. So the memes don't work against us, and plus I don't care.
Right.
Now, I get emotional if it's something serious, but something like calling, saying that saying I want to see 10-year-old kids working in factories, because I want to get rid of all labor laws. That doesn't really. How does that affect me? I mean, actually, I wouldn't mind if that happened. If you look at North Korea, the only reason North Korea is the financial. South Korea. Sorry, North Korea. Shit. If you look at South Korea, the only reason it is the financial powerhouse that it is right now is because children had to go back after they were devastated. People worked for $2 an hour. Children worked, all this stuff, and they did it for 20 or 30 years, and then all that could cease because they built it back up through a free market. If they would have built it back up through socialism, guess what South Korea would have?
Well, it would be North Korea.
North Korea,
right?
It would have North Korea. So there you go.
I wanted to ask you about, so speaking of regulations, I saw you have a little back and forth recently with somebody. I found this interesting, and so I wanted to talk with you about it. It was the first time that I'd really seen it. So as I said, we had Anarchy Ball on the show. I asked about, feelings about intellectual property when it came to the ball and everything. And of course, it was like, look, take the ball, use the ball. It's nobody's property, whatever. I saw you get into a little back and forth with somebody who said, that was my meme that you reposted, and you should have credited me or something like that. It was a meme. It didn't have any watermark on it or anything like that some people would put on. I found that absolutely fascinating because I thought that it flew in the face of everything that a meme is supposed to be, right? That it's not supposed to be that it was an individual person that did it, but that it's the idea behind it, and that's the concept. Just wanted your thoughts on if this is something that you've ran across, if this is just an outlying case. Are there people out there now that memes are catching on, that are really thinking and expecting that there's some sort of intellectual property surrounding these memes? And what are your thoughts on that, if it's a rising trend?
Well, I can say that the person who was addressing me about that, was not an anarchist, voluntarist, or ANCAP, because I believe if they were, they would, you know how we feel. We feel about copyright. If you steal something, you steal something. That means that I don't have it anymore.
Right.
If someone steals something from me, I don't have it anymore. There's a difference between stealing and copying. I suspect that I'm gonna, somebody will get a copy of my book and make 1,000 copies of it and pass it out. And what the fuck? What can I? What am I gonna go? What am I gonna go nuts? If the message gets out there, that's what's more important. But the problem here, here's my rule. Okay, if one thing I don't do is I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter going through my timeline. I follow about 500 people, and I find when you follow 500 people, your timeline is just a mess half the time.
That's why I only follow 50, bro.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of the people who follow me have great comments on stuff that I throw up there, and if I don't follow them, I'm not gonna get the notification on it.
Right.
So that's why I do it. So if I see if I am going through my timeline on Twitter or somebody else shared something and I see it, I have never taken a picture from someone on Twitter, copied it to my phone or my computer, and then reposted it and then reposted it under my name. I'll always retweet it.
Right.
And you don't see me do that a lot because, like I said, I don't go through my timeline a lot. But because I'm a mod on Facebook, I spend a lot of time on Facebook. And if I see stuff on Facebook and I like it, and I will just share it. And I've never there's only one that I've ever covered up the watermark on, and that's Turning Point. And I'll tell you why. Please. I have no problem with somebody stealing, or stealing. Just take, if I make a meme, and you know how many times I make a meme, put it on Twitter, then I go on Facebook an hour later and it's on Facebook.
Right, sure.
That's I'm like, damn, that's really cool, And I watermarked my stuff for a month, and then I was like, screw this, fuck it, I don't care. It just takes too much time. So, but Turning Point, they take old memes and put their logo on it. To me, that's kind of shitty because I know they're not doing it to say that they made it. They're doing it for advertising, but still, it's it's public domain stuff. Just post it. Just repost it. But if I'm on Facebook and I see something, I'm not going to contact the person who posted it and say, "Hey, do you mind if I share this to my Twitter account?" No, I'm just going to share it. The person put it out there, and it doesn't say, "Oh, I own this" or anything. I mean, no one who's made memes or shared memes or curates memes thinks that they own any of them, even the ones they make. So that conversation was sort of ridiculous because I believe what their assumption was that I was on Twitter. I saw it. I copied it. I copied it onto my device, and then I reposted it under my account. And if I see something on Twitter that I think is really good, I'm just going to retweet it so that the person who did the original tweet, who may be the creator himself, can get the retweets and the likes for it, and maybe some follows for it too.
So I wanted to talk to you about the book a little bit more. And specifically, I think because it's such a unique book, if you could talk a little bit about, because I loved in your intro sort of talking about how to use this book, as it were, right? Because it does kind of come with a little bit of an instruction manual. And I think it's telling about what you're trying to do with the book. Could you talk to people a little bit about people who are going out and looking to get this book so that they can get an idea of how they should be? How do you use this book? What's the instruction, the little instruction manual for this thing?
You want to know how I would use it?
Or go ahead. Hey, how you would use it? How you suggest to use it?
Well, I mean, this is the kind of book that I think with the power of the message, it's something that I'd want to look at first thing in the morning. So me, if I want to read something first thing in the morning, it's going to be on the back of the toilet.
That's the same for me. Same for me.
Yeah. So And that's the way I've set it up. Day one, there is a meme there, and there's a commentary under it. You can read it in less than 2 or 3 minutes. You can absorb it in less than 2 or 3 minutes. So, if you want to put it on the coffee table, if wherever you have coffee in the morning, if you want to put it next to the computer because you jump on the computer in the morning, the book is designed to be read once a day over a 31-day period. Now, I already had somebody who reviewed it and read it all in one sitting. So, I sort of figured I knew that people were going to do that because voluntarists, anarchists, and ANCAPs do not follow directions very well. They're always going to go their own way. But that's the way I look at it is it's just basically a study guide. And I was contacted through direct message through Twitter, and somebody told me that he was looking forward to sitting down with his 10 and 14-year-old every day, for 31 days to go over the steps. And the first thing I thought was, all right, how much did I curse in the book? and now I'm thinking about it. I haven't looked at it since all the formatting was done. I don't think I did, maybe once or twice at the most, because I think that the way I talk is so New York and so I use fuck as a comma. So the way I write though is much different. I tend to take my writing very seriously. So, if you're going to have a curse in there, it's going to be well planned. So, but it's just to be looked at for a couple minutes every day for 31 days and try to think about the message during the day. The first day is day one. This is not going to come as a surprise to anyone, is about taxation and the fact that taxation is theft. Every single time, if you are required to do it under threat, it is not voluntary. If taxation was voluntary, I'm sure there would be a lot of people who would still do it. I doubt there would be many. And people say, it's like there's a great meme of a dog smiling. And he's like looking up and he's looking back and this dog has a smile on his face, and the meme says, when I say taxation is theft, a statist always says, how will the government function if taxes aren't collected? And then it says me, comma, and there's the dog just smiling.
Right.
Well, that's the point. It's the point of, we won't get into that now, but I know that a great part of your show is talking about crypto. And I just heard Roger Ver talking on the Dave Rubin show, and he's like, my goal is that crypto is going to destroy the governments.
Yes.
And, that's my goal is that in writing these books in a very simple format is that people will get my whole goal in writing this book is that at the ending of it, you will absolutely realize that the government is unnecessary and that the government is way more of a detriment and way more dangerous to your private property rights, to your personal safety than if it wasn't there. If we were, if we were living in anarchy or some kind of TV everybody's idea of what a stateless society would look like, is based off of some TV show or movie. So people don't realize there have been volumes written on what a stateless society would look like and how it would run. And all you have to do is pick some of those books up and you'll just be like, oh my God, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is how it would work, wouldn't it? And Murray Rothbard does some great work on that.
Yeah, definitely. Anatomy of the State is one that everybody has to. I think that's certainly a must read. But your book, I'm just going to throw the cover up one more time. Freedom Through Memedom: 31-Day Guide to Waking Up to Liberty. That is on Amazon now. I encourage everybody to go and check it out. I've got to work to get you set up so we could get to selling this with some cryptocurrency, man. I think that's a conversation you and I should definitely have.
It's because of the conversation that we had on my podcast. It's definitely in my mind. This has only been on Amazon for about 8 days now. I don't even have a paper copy myself. You order,
wow.
You order your own paper copies and everything. I'm still waiting for them to show up because I'm cheap. I'm not going to pay for expedited shipping. Screw that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'll certainly have to have you sign my copy. And yeah, man, I thank you for being on the show. Mance Rayder, you guys can go and check him out on Twitter at MN Rothbard, and you should definitely do that because. Man, some days you just have me literally like falling down laughing and thinking as well. So, Mance, thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll definitely have you back on again.
Thank you, Vince. Love you, bro.
So, Christian, the power of memes. It's everything, man. Mm-hmm. It's everything. We're in a war of. It's a war for the soul of the global culture at this point. Mm-hmm. And I think that putting it in these very simple terms is the easiest way to go.
What a brilliant idea.
Oh, no, the book idea is perfect. It's perfect. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. And it's like, I also feel the timing's great because it's a great Christmas gift.
Yeah.
If you're a libertarian, if you're an anarcho-capitalist, what a great Christmas gift to give, to take to the family during the holidays. Maybe you got a sibling or a parent who's maybe, a little bit open, or to at least be like, hey, if you want to know where I'm coming from, what my thoughts are, this is kind of a good, and it's easy. It's like bite-sized pieces, and it's got the little memes which make you laugh. So that's very important. What I'm interested in seeing some memes. We need to start getting these memes, and hopefully they will come soon. So I'm just going to send a call out, and because we'll do this. This is news story number 3. I think it's the perfect thing to follow it up with. It's something that we've been talking about, and yet again this week, news number 3. So as those people who watch the show know, Activist Post's channel, which was carrying the clips from our show on YouTube, got completely banned after posting a segment that we did on this show that was about the idea that you cannot rape a robot. You cannot rape. They were talking about sex dolls. They weren't even sex robots, sex dolls. And we talked on the show and we said, listen, there's a slippery slope to start giving rights to inanimate objects. You can't violate, and it's not a violation of the non-aggression principle to attack an inanimate object that is your property. You're more than welcome to do whatever you want to an inanimate object that's your property. That's how this works. When we go beyond that, it starts to get into a dangerous place. Last week, we talked about how James Corbett, in saying essentially the same thing, in a very eloquent manner, as a matter of fact, as James is known to do, he got one of his videos age restricted for talking about the exact same thing. There's something going on. There's something here. It's a dangerous precedent. This week, what's the new news on that side? Throw up this Siri thing. This is from VentureBeat. Petition asks Siri and Alexa to flip the script on sexual harassment. We've recently seen the massive impact of the Me Too, the hashtag #MeToo, and the public takedown of numerous prominent sexual predators is fueling a positive change in how society views sexual misconduct. Victims and advocates alike feel a unique sense of empowerment to take a stand against the social norm of looking the other way or shifting blame when sexual assault or harassment occurs. This moment in time is exciting, but are major tech companies missing the boat? A new petition from care2.com is calling on Apple and Amazon to shut down sexual harassment of their virtual assistants. Though the issue spans across all digital assistants, the petition focuses particularly on reprogramming Amazon's Alexa and Apple's Siri to provide more assertive responses to queries that could be considered sexual harassment. Care2 CEO and founder Randy Painter. It's so weird because this is spelled Paynter. Never mind. Said in a statement, "In this Me Too moment, where sexual harassment may finally be taken seriously in society, we have a unique opportunity to develop AI in a way that creates a kinder world. If we as a society want to move past a place where sexual harassment is permitted, it's time for Apple and Amazon to reprogram their bots to push back against sexual harassment," unquote. The problematic responses cited on the official petition page come from questionable Siri queries. In the discourse, Siri responds to her harassers with coy remarks that sometimes even express gratitude. When they called Siri a, quote, slut, she responded with a simple, quote, now. And when the same person told Siri, quote, you're hot, Siri responded with, quote, I'm just well put together. Thanks. Is there something I can help you with? Sure, Siri is good at redirecting the conversation, but could her programmers help her do better? Petitioners sure think so. Instead of coy responses, they're calling for digital assistants like Siri to shut down harassers with statements like, quote, that's not an okay thing to say to me, unquote. Another suggestion was to offer responses that provide stats about harassment and its prevalence around the world. So, let's just go straight over, throw up this petition. I think at this point it's basically been fully reached. It was looking for 10,000. They've now pushed it to 12,000. Siri and Alexa could help shut down sexual harassment. So this is from the page of the actual petition. As the tech industry moves to develop artificial intelligence, a key question remains, how will these AIs act, talk, and think? With the tech industry dominated by men, 80%, we're starting to get a glimpse of how AIs will interact with humans through technology like Apple's Siri and Amazon's Alexa, and it's not pretty. Most bots are defaulted to female voices. A writer sexually harassed bots to see how they would respond. Shockingly, most AIs did not respond negatively to negative comments thrown at them. See chart here. Tech should help to positively change, not perpetuate societal ills. If we as a society want to move past a place where sexual harassment is permitted, it's time for Apple and Amazon to reprogram their bots to push back against sexual harassment. Sign this petition if you want to see Siri and Alexa, both feminine-gendered AI, to push back on sexual harassment directed at them. So, Christian, this, again, is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, seriously.
First, Siri and Alexa are not feminine-gendered AI. One, you can change the voice to be male. And two, because it has a female voice doesn't make it feminine-gendered. It's a fucking robot. It's not even really it's a very weak AI. Very weak. Very weak. It's not feminine gendered. Second off, you cannot sexually harass a smartphone or a smart assistant in a little box in your house. It has no sexual organs. It's not a human being. Like, part of sexual harassment is that it makes the other party feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. You can't make Siri feel... Siri doesn't have fucking feelings. What we really need to realize, you know, when we first started doing the show, for about the first 6 months, every day, I'd say it on the show, but every day, my first tweet of the day would be, read 1984. That would be my first tweet of the day. One of the biggest things in 1984 is the idea of thought crimes. As a matter of fact, the story itself starts out with the protagonist, Winston, trying to get off screen, away from the telescreen. So there's these screens everywhere in the world, and everyone has one in their house that's literally monitoring their every move in their house, and they have one at work doing the same. They're all over on your way to work, walking through the town, all of this. He gets out of the view of the telescreen and opens up a journal and starts writing in the journal. And this, to me, speaks to why people need to read 1984. Because what these people are suggesting is, what they want to happen is, if I say something to my phone or my digital assistant, no one else is around, just me and an inanimate object. They want that inanimate object to scold me. They want that inanimate object to come back at me with what they want. So get that part. That part is very, very important. They want to control what happens and what the response is when I speak to an inanimate object. And you have to ask yourself, speaking to an inanimate object is the equivalent, with no one else around, is the equivalent of speaking out loud to yourself. Mm-hmm. And what's the real difference between talking to yourself and thinking? What's the real difference? And as a matter of fact, a lot of people, when thinking, talk to themselves. Mm-hmm. So what they're asking for is they're asking to start a regime of thought crime. They want to be the thought police because they want to even police what you say when no one else is around. Just like Winston writing in his journal that it would be, and he even says, it's not that there was a law against it, there was no law against anything, but he was sure that it would be punishable by death if anyone found a journal, which is writing in a journal is the equivalent of talking to yourself, it's the equivalent of thinking. Mm-hmm. These people want thought crimes.
That's crazy.
This is not, it's the road to hell paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So for all the people who up front, because of their own personal preference, are like, oh no, that sounds perfectly good. Like, I want to be sure that it's like, I want to be sure that if someone says that because it's going to contribute to them thinking that it's okay, and it's like, just be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, seriously.
Be careful what you wish for, because it's okay when it's on your side, mm-hmm. and it's what you want people to think. But would it be okay if the thought crime shoe was on the other foot? Because eventually it will be, and people need to recognize that. This is yet another step down this road. If there's anything that scares me in terms of what's upcoming that can lead to the most totalitarian situation, it's these people demanding thought crimes. Mm-hmm. And they're gonna do it through the vein of these robots, which are your own private property. They are really gonna say, you go out and buy this private property that belongs to you, but we're gonna make sure that it's programmed to scold you for behaving in a manner that we don't approve of, even when you're by yourself.
Crazy. Man.
People got to be on the alert. You got to be looking. I'm going to start saying it again. Read 1984. Mm-hmm. Pick up the book, read it. Or, you know what? Go on YouTube. There's an absolutely fantastic and free audiobook version. That's the way to go. Go get it. Do it. You'll appreciate it, and you'll understand everything that's happening a lot better. With that, I think we're done. Thank you for today, dude.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, thank you guys for joining us. I want to thank my guest, Mance Rayder. Please go and pick up his book, Freedom Through Memedom. It is available on Amazon, and the link is in the show description on YouTube, and should also be in the show description on iTunes and Stitcher, where you can go and check out the podcast. And, of course, you can go on to youtube.com/Vin Armani and get actually all of our past shows, in addition to some other content as well. I think we're going to take Christmas off because that falls on a Monday, and we're going to figure out what we do on New Year. But we will be back next week, for sure, with another live show, Monday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And until then, stay free.